The labyrinth. A sacred symbolism of coming home to self. It has been a part of ritual throughout time, always the mystical journey, and finding at the center of self the connection with the Christedness. It is time for every human being on this ball to make the sacred journey to their own spiritual center in self, to actually walk a labyrinth, to have that experience of how life moves you, so that you don't see always exactly where you are going. And sometimes you will absolutely believe you know where you are going, only to find it winds up in a dead end. And you get to return, retracing your steps, reconsidering your choices, and then going in a new direction to come to the center of the labyrinth. And so it is, beloved masters, that sacred journey to self, to bring you into alignment, at one-ment, with the most important and sacred relationship that you could possibly have, that of yourself with yourself, and therefore feeling within the depths of self that overwhelmingly sweet, amazingly powerful connection with the divine. And so, dearly beloved masters, that homecoming to self and the power struggle that the ego is putting up to prevent people from coming to themselves. The ego is using every ploy that it possibly can. It uses threats and intimidation. It uses guilt and shame. It uses accusations and insults, all the ways that wounds have been inflicted throughout the illusion. And therefore, the greatest power struggle that most people are experiencing is that power struggle with their own small self that feels so large, that feels so intimidating, that feels as though it is absolutely overwhelming. And yet, it's a part of you. It isn't the ruling part, And as it has been in the illusion, the controlling part, that in and of itself is beginning to melt away as the illusion passes, because the more you come home to yourself, the higher your vibrational frequency, the less control has a place. So, as we take that into consideration, to look at relationships of all kinds in your life. In general, in the public, when the word relationship is mentioned, it is thought of first as something between two people, an intimate situation, a marriage, a commitment, the relating of partners in a relationship. But truly, you relate to everyone, and you relate to everything. So, in business, there are relationships. In friendships, you relate. What is your relationship to nature? What is your relationship to creativity? How do you relate to the arts? Do you consider them valid? Or are they something that is simply an inconvenience? And so, beloved masters, all of these different forms of relating and all of the different potentials for some kind of power struggle to arise in the relationship, especially in these times where the need to be right is so powerful. Two places that it arises publicly, of course, in the churches, in religion, and in the political arena. And then we come to the intimate relationships and all of the power struggles that people can get into when the fairy tale begins to unravel. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there were two people who were so attracted to each other, they fell madly in love. And they got married and lived happily ever after. And then there are the reality shows. Let's go and look and see what the little prince and princess, the royal couple, have come to after a year's time. And a lot of times, in these times, especially when there is no legal commitment. A year later, the loving couple are not together. Things just went wrong. Now, beloved masters, when you need things to be a certain way, operative word being need, it is that neediness in and of itself becomes a limiting factor. The need to be loved, the need to be appreciated, the need to be respected, the need to be heard, and yet, if you observe people and you hear what they are saying that they need in a relationship, very often you will find that's the last thing they will grant to others. So, someone who desperately needs to be heard, that gets very angry because no one will listen to them, quite frequently has no ear for what anyone else is speaking about. They may talk over the top of them. They may walk away. They may simply tune out. And yet they desire the full, undivided attention of those that they are relating to. Which brings us to a point of consideration of conscious conversation. We bring this up more and more frequently all of this time because as you watch people on television, as you observe a crowd in a public place, people really aren't paying a great deal of attention to the ones they're with. Many of them are on a telephone texting, while the one that they are with, be it friend or lover, or even sometimes business associate, simply sits by, unless they are also on their telephone. Relating means being aware, consciously present with those that you are relating to. And conscious conversation means not only listening for the sound of their voice to stop so you can say something, but feeling an opening. And when you observe groups of people on television, very often you simply observe a shouting match, because everyone is attempting to be heard over the top of everyone else, especially if they are angry, upset, or excited. And of course, when the emotions are running high, a lot of times people do tune out. They disconnect from their own inner connection. And that leads to power struggles in relationships that might not even be there if people were listening to each other. Because frequently, if someone who was upset or insulted in a conversation speaks of it to someone else, they say, "I thought I heard them say," operative word being thought. Were you really listening? Did you hear? Because not only listening with the ears, but listening with the eyes, observing body English, facial expressions, and listening with the seat of the soul, the truth center, feeling their energy, really paying attention. Do the words that they're saying match the energy that they're expressing? And if not, why? Mixed messages lead to a lot of confusion in relationships. So if the one that you're relating to is saying something, but the look on their face, their posture, the way they're expressing by the tone of voice don't match the words that they're saying, what is happening here? There are some people that could be labeled, and we don't care much for labels, but they could be labeled people-pleasing sweethearts. So they tell you something, and they look at you to see if you've accepted what they said. And if you don't seem to have gotten it right away, they start in again on a whole new track, attempting to present their idea from a different perspective in the hopes to capture your attention, your acceptance. And some people, if they don't get the appropriate responses, give up. And other people, if they don't get the desired response, get angry. As you would go within yourself, making that journey, that sacred journey to the center of yourself. As you meet yourself, as you feel your fears, and you courageously move through them. As you find the places of worry and doubt, to discover how you are giving power to your ego, to others, because these are the times of owning yourself. A lot of people are talking very adamantly, very stridently about getting their power back. And I will tell you, whether it is the first most important relationship in your life, the one with you, or relationships with others, war is becoming less effective all of the time. And I can certainly hear people saying, well, this is an ascended master. He isn't living here on this planet. We have to forgive him because he just really doesn't know what's going on. Au contraire, beloved masters. I really do know exactly what's going on. And I am quite aware that all of the military strategy of the most brilliant minds on the planet, of the greatest cruelty and the darkest lies, it is becoming weaker all of the time. Because the planet is ascending and war, control, battle strategy, which you find in the marketplace all of the time, militaristic power struggles of all kinds, and dearly beloved masters, planning. They're all becoming weaker and less valid as the energy of the planet accelerates. On March 16th, 2015, the seventh square of the planet Uranus in Aries to the planet Pluto in Capricorn. Aries, the sign that rules the head. And because people have thought that their power was in their mind, that their brilliance is in their head, Aries, the sign of the head, is also the sign of I am. I am. Whatever you say after you say I am, you own it. I am great. I am sick. I am a master. I am weak. I am powerful. I am afraid. And whatever you say after you say I am, you own it. So you can affirm with authority, authorship in your own life, how wonderful you are. Or you can rehearse the ego's litany of lack. And many people do. Everyone they meet, they tell their sad story. How does this relate to power struggles? Everyone on the planet is attempting to get energy. How do you get it? Some people get attention, and I'm going to use the word attention. People want the energy of love, of appreciation, of attraction, and they feel that they have got it when people are paying attention to them. So, some people will tell a very sad story about their victimization to everyone that comes along. And even though the story itself is actually eroding the foundations of the teller, for a moment they have people's attention because humans are addicted to drama. And so it becomes an ongoing struggle to get the power they want. And what the majority of humanity does not realize is power doesn't require a struggle. You have it. It's yours. It belongs to you. God granted it. No one can take it away from you. You can perceive that you have given it up and then avow, they took my power. I felt it when it happened. They took my power. No, they didn't take your power. They may have disconnected. They may have stopped listening. They may have ceased to give energy to what you're talking about. And so, paying attention to how you struggle to be powerful. What are the important points of energy that you are attempting to get, to draw to yourself, to bring into your life? And how do you go about getting them? The quickest way is to speak well of yourself. Get centered. Feel the love that is yours within, and be amazed at how love comes to find you. Because love is a magnet. It draws people in like sunlight. But a lot of children got very addicted in their childhood to very dramatic ways of getting energy. And engaging in power struggles with their parents, so that those power struggles became a way of life. So, intimidators tend to go along for a while until they feel that they're not being appropriately attended to, they're not getting the attention they desire. They are not being effectively energized by the situation. And suddenly, a tyrant emerges. It may be quiet intimidation through a locked jaw. It may be a screaming tirade. Some intimidators resort to physical violence. So, the most obvious place on this ball right now that intimidators are playing their role is ISIS. Frightened, angry, wounded men who are seeking to be powerful by doing the dictates of Allah. And it is that there are many people coming from all over the world to join them, because even though it is absolutely brutal, even though it is inhumanly destructive, a lot of people simply see the power, not how it's obtained. And yet, and we will say it again, evolution is pulling the plug on that kind of empowerment. Entitlement through terror is going to melt away more and more in the refined energy of evolution. So we return to, momentarily, the square between Uranus, which is revolution, and Pluto in Capricorn, evolution. Monumental changes at the very core of each being, influencing the collective consciousness. And so, beloved masters, where are your power struggles going on? For some people, they're internal. They are purely an internal affair. For some people, because the struggle within is so big, it overflows into their life, and it begins to toxically influence all relationships. And others are more outwardly militaristic, and the power struggles are very obvious. The need to be in control is so great. And the Plutonian energy marks endings that open new doors for new beginnings. So the old order is passing away, and new doors, new pathways in the brain are being opened, potentially, as each one will allow for greater peace and far less struggle. There are no enemies. There are no enemies. This can only be integrated into your deepest self, because the logical mind will draw out all of the examples that it possibly can to prove there are enemies. But there are no enemies. So, for those of you whose greatest power struggle is with your own ego, the ego is a part of you. Battle strategy says you've got to beat the ego in order to win. Divine law says in war, no one wins. So it isn't about beating your ego. It is about owning that your ego is a part of you, and in order to win, you are required to love every aspect of yourself.